I would like to establish the principle that there is no single trivial signing statement. They're all equally dangerous, equally threatening to the American system of government.
Before we have to go, can we look at just one? December 30th, 2005, U.S. interrogators cannot torture prisoners or otherwise subject them to cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. Now, this was sponsored by John McCain. He's the Republican frontrunner. Bush's signing statement is the president as commander-in-chief can waive the torture ban.
Yep.
This, to me, seems to be a little more than the average signing statement. Yet again, there is no power above him to rein him in, and this is very troublesome.
You make a good point, but it helps to serve the point I just made. That is certainly much more significant than almost any other instance where Congress tried to delimit the president by adding an amendment or adding a title to an act that says, and by the way, we forbid you from doing that. But the only reason that President Bush could get by with that is because Congress was so accustomed to and had yielded so long to the pattern of accepting such things. Then when it came to a big one, he was able to get through it. He was able to get by an inactive Congress. So I lay the blame on Congress. Congress allowed itself to become a lackey to the president, and the neocons and other theorists around the president were the ones who were sensitive enough and knowledgeable enough to know he could get by with it. But other presidents helped prepare the way by lesser things, and then Nixon helped prepare the way, but it went too far. Now, what was too far for Nixon is sort of ordinary now because it's become institutionalized. I hate to harp on the same thing, but I do not want to be misled or have the people misled that sometimes there's some big ones we should fight against. Because we don't fight against those because we never we never tried to stop the growth of that principle.
What do you believe, if any, is the strategy of Congress for letting this go forward? You said maybe they don't have the votes to override this to pass another law.
No, it's a strategy of no strategy. It's a strategy of cowardice. It's a strategy of retreat. They feel that they can't do that. We look like they're paying the Republicans back for subjecting Bill Clinton to impeachment. They're always worried about retaliation, when in fact this is an act of principle. That's one card they could take out of John McCain's thing, that if you are really absolutely unchangeable about a certain principle, other members of Congress start to respect that and get scared because they're so rarely driven by principle. The goddamn Democrats just won't do that. My anger is against the Democrats for not responding to it. I hate them more now than I do for the president himself. The president would not persist if Congress had the guts to get up and say that and to retain the power of impeachment. You don't necessarily send the president out of office. Impeachment is a matter of putting him before the bar of judgment. And the most important one of those was, the two most important were Bill Clinton and Andrew Johnson. Both were impeached by the House and then sent the indictment to the Senate, and both won in the sense that the Senate could not muster up 2/3 vote to convict and therefore remove the president. But it's not important whether you remove him or not. It's important to put the president in the seat as a defendant in the impeachment process, just like Bill Clinton did, and that it helped restore the validity of the impeachment device.
One final question, Professor Lowi. If there was a challenge to the signing statements, is that something which members of Congress might fear could end up in a Bush-packed Supreme Court?
Well, that's the reason why they shouldn't go to the judiciary. The Supreme Court has already taken Bush out of his most perilous position, which was not getting elected at all. The Supreme Court is stacked enough now to give as much favor to the presidency as they possibly can. Why use that route? That's a much more difficult route to go, even if there was a possibility of winning against the getting a reaffirmation that Congress can reject signing statements. But that's a triviality compared to a single blow. That's what Congress has to have imposed on it. It must take that position. It cannot go the judicial way. Even if it did, that means that the court has proven to be the stronger of the three, and therefore Congress takes an even lower position if they have to snivel their ways with their tail between their legs to court to bring a contempt of Congress suit against the president would never go anywhere. Never go anywhere. That's not been tried. We've got a situation that was tried less than 10 years ago with Bill Clinton. We know that the impeachment does not stop the government from working. Impeachment does not derange the society. Impeachment is a big entertainment, yes. Everybody would be focused on it. But going through the court on a situation like this is a totally impossible idea. It's just impossible.
Professor
But the
Lowi,
impeachment is within our hands, within the hands of Nancy Pelosi. Well, I'll give you one other thing. When President Ford was minority leader in the Congress in the 60s, and they wanted to impeach Earl Warren, they wanted to impeach Justice Douglas, the two most liberal people on the court. And some journalist went up to he's a good old boy, was a good old boy, Gerald Ford. And what does it take to impeach? And he said, the votes. That's all you need. Because high crimes and misdemeanors have no special definition. Congress simply has to have provocation, has to have a broadly shared situation on their hands that the president has gone away from the track, and they can bring impeachment just on that ground alone.
Professor Lowi, we're going to have to leave it there. We're certainly going to forward this interview directly over to Nancy Pelosi's office and John Conyers' office, and hopefully they'll hear your words, too.
You can tell them I think they're a bunch of bastards, that they can only validate themselves by some kind of courageous action.
This should make good national TV. I'd like to thank you once again for joining us in the International Newsnet.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity.